Pancras Museums, which is the old Capitol Museum, right at the heart of the university campus. Has anybody been to the Pancras Museums? You have. Which one? The old Capitol? You haven't? Okay.
I've been to the natural history.
Yes, and that's the other end. Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay.
So it's the old Capitol Museum and the Museum of Natural History. And the Museum of Natural History is over 160 years old. It is what's really cool about our museums and the Museum of Natural History is that we have the oldest museum studies program in the country.
Wow.
Which is great. So for our future museum staff and directors and educators, and we actually have a lot of young people that study, that get the certificate and go on to jobs like that throughout the state and throughout the country. So it's really, and around the world. So we're really proud of that at Iowa. I came to Iowa in about 5 years ago. Before this, I was working at the Field Museum in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
I was doing digital learning there, working with scientists and high school students and college students. And before that, I was at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is the second largest art museum in the country. And I loved my work there. I did a lot of digital media interpretation and education, which was a lot of fun. And how did I get here? I married an Iowan. That's why I'm here. I married an Iowan. And convinced me that Iowa City would be great. I had no idea about Iowa City. Is everybody here from Iowa or from around the region? Did you grow up here? What part of
A
Iowa?
lot of the people went to school here and came back.
Okay, so
I was
who's
originally from
Oh, I was going to ask, who's Hawkeye? Former Hawkeye?
I grew up in Marion.
Marion, yes.
Marion and good times.
Okay, very good. And I know you're from San Francisco, but you're...
No, I grew up in Iowa City.
You grew up in Iowa City?
I moved to San Francisco when I was
Okay. West High or City High?
City High.
Okay then, okay. See, I know I need to be careful not to say one of them. I worked at West High when I first got here for a little while, and then I got my job at the Pancras Museum. So it's a mix and love of working with people and telling stories and thinking about collecting, and that's what this presentation is about. So I'm going to get started. Like I said, my name is Kaufman. This is meant to be conversational. My story of collecting, I mean, how many people have collected when they were a child? Yes? What did you collect as a child? Anything,
a
right?
lot of things.
A lot of
Rocks,
things.
bugs.
Rocks. Bugs, okay. How about
Mine is fabrics.
fabrics? Okay. Wonderful. And that's okay if you haven't, or maybe you know somebody who does. Most people do. And what we're going to examine today is why people collect. What is it about collecting that A is so special, unique, and why so many people do it? When I was working at the Field Museum, my daughter had an opportunity that I never had as a kid, and they have an area where children's collections are showcased in the family play area, and she showcased her great-grandmother's buttons. And that was very special. You could see my husband there crouching down on her case. And when I came to Iowa, I said, well, I really liked what they did, but I wanted to do it for everyone. So I'm going to show some of the ways that we honor and celebrate collecting. But we need to go back a little bit further and dig into a little bit of the origins and think about, A, what is a collection, and why do people collect? Well, collection is technically anything, any group of objects that you would organize or curate or have in some way. Usually the minimum to make a collection is 3 objects, typically. And usually it's seen or gathered together in some way. So I want to kind of put that out in terms of how we define what a collection is. Why do we collect? Now here's a question for everybody in the room and those viewing from the comfort of your homes. Why do you think we collect? What are some reasons? So I would love to make this again a very conversational. What are some reasons that people would collect? Yes?
They validate themselves or show how they've a little bit of their personality.
Okay. To validate themselves and show their personality. Thank you. Yes?
I think it's kind of a way of trying to understand the world. Like you sort of fix on something and you learn as much as you can about that thing.
understand the world and categorize it, organize what we're interested in or surrounded by, and really, that is so fascinating. Any other reasons why somebody might collect something?
Maybe understanding history.
Oh, understanding history, right. Yeah.
I mean, if you collect
Yes.
old stuff, often you want to figure out exactly where it came from.
Oh, right. People are interested in the story behind it, the history, maybe how they relate to each other over a period of time. Those are wonderful ways. I love hearing that. These are one of many, and those are all excellent reasons. Here's some other reasons that I've heard and read that these are many, for fun, for attachment, and nostalgia is a big one. I hear a lot about, like, it makes me remember of the past or a time that they have a connection with. Sometimes the quest, right? The hunt for that thing that you really want, and so that's another reason why people collect. And other things, it's maybe handed down, an heirloom, right? Just like my daughter's great-grandmother's button collection. And all the reasons that you said, absolutely true. So thank you for contributing that. And hopefully those at home are thinking about these things too. Many different reasons why people collect. Well, the fun thing about this collecting idea is that it's nothing new. This is in our brains. We are instinctively great collectors. Why is that? Because in the hunter-gathering, as hunter-gatherers, we were gathering, we were acquiring things to survive. It was very important to us in order to think about what is it that we needed, how did we record things, organize, right? So for our own survival, our brain, especially this area called the prefrontal cortex lobe, is responsible for organizing, planning, gathering, for connecting. All of these things are very important for memory. And so we're natural collectors. It is part of our DNA. It's not just something for fun or all of these excellent reasons that absolutely relate to why we collect, but it's part of our survival instinct. Millions of years, or thousands and thousands of years. And also to remember, I have to mention that, and this idea of representing our lives. So when we look at, for example, the cave paintings in Lascaux, France, they were recording, they were remembering, and again, that contributed to their survival. Now, we're not the only ones that collect, and this is my favorite part of this presentation. The natural world does the same thing. Maybe not for exactly the same reasons, but for very important reasons, and in some cases. This is one of my favorite birds in the animal kingdom, in the bird family, is the Australian satin bowerbird, which I did bring. This is a real Australian satin bowerbird. Now, I'm going to kind of walk around a little bit. Is that okay? So that people can take a look close. This is real. This is let's see, 1890, collected in 1890. But what I want to share about the bowerbird, yes, please come closer, because I'm going to come around. What I want to share about the bowerbird is that it has an 80% larger prefrontal cortex brain than any other bird species. 10% larger than its own there are other species within the bowerbird family, but this bowerbird, yes, Australian satin bowerbird, and if you look carefully, it has kind of like a little, I think depending on the light, a little bit of an iridescence that's real pretty. I don't think I'd go by the eyes. The eyes are a little bit, would be bluer. This was, again, prepared in 1890, but fascinating bird. And they organize, they're incredible organizers, and they do something very unique that I think you'll enjoy. To find their mate, they collect things. And not just anything, they collect blue things, only blue things, because the female loves blue things. And so the male gets hard at work to build its nest, and as you can see, curate the space to attract the female. I think that's wonderful. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. So later on, when we're done with the program, close look. I just can't allow you to touch it because it's very, very delicate. But I love that. Other species like rats and sometimes magpies are said to be very good collectors. But there's something about the way that the mating ritual and the way they curate this space that this bower bird, this type of bird is very special. Now, we can trace collecting way back to Mesopotamia in the 3rd millennium, especially when books and writing and all these things started getting close. Some of the earliest libraries were collections of writings. Now, moving fast forward around the 16th century, this was kind of the age of discovery. This was an age of exploration, and it was a time of great wealth for Europe, for example. And in acquiring this wealth, they would collect things that they would find, like what they would call, in the early times, cabinets of curiosity. This is an example of a cabinet of curiosity from the book of the Historia Naturale from 1599. And as you can see, we have some gentlemen here pointing at the ceiling with all of these odds and ends. Some things were found and some things were fabricated, like unicorn horns or rabbits with, what do they call it, a jackalope. They were fabricated, it wasn't really real. But it was this idea of showcasing one's wealth and stature, and why not, if you had enough money, put an alligator in the ceiling while you're at it. Of course, we have, I want to be realistic, and there is this is a representation of colonial Europe, of discovery, of colonization, of maybe even, and yes, misrepresenting different societies, especially taking from other communities around the world and claiming it for themselves. So that was part of the history and the early history of museums. That's how museums did come to exist. And we know that's changed a lot, especially more recently. But I want to share with you the origins of that, which I think is fascinating. And at the Pentecost Museums, at the Museum of Natural History, we have a cabinet of curiosity that you can view. And there's some odds, and I think we have a footprint, supposedly the evidence of a footprint of the abominable snowman in a jar.
In a jar?
In a jar. Somebody decided that they would put that in there next to a foot and next to a fan and next to something, an ostrich egg. And it was just, again, this cabinet of curiosity. But they don't do that. This is not how we collect now. Collections have changed a lot, and especially in our modern era, where a lot of countries over the last century and even in the last 40 years have reclaimed independence from former colonial empires, including the States and Europe, places like Britain. And many of these countries and cultures are trying to reclaim them back, rightfully so. That is called repatriation, and it's something museums are practicing. And while there's still some work to do in the area, museums are not off the hook, if you will, for misrepresenting collections or acquiring or not returning things. There is a movement. There is, especially after during the pandemic and after George Floyd, museums are really trying their best to make an effort to be inclusive spaces, to think carefully about how they represent, how they collect, and how they return objects where they belong. And so this is an example of a funerary object that's being prepared to return to Kansas. So I just wanted to show you these are efforts that museums are making today. But again, I should mention, I really actually forgot to mention that in the 19th century, let's go back a little bit to the Victorian era, people were very interested in collecting as well. And also, because of the industrial era, people were gaining their own wealth, so collecting became an interest. And more recently, coming back to museums, coming back to sort of more the modern day, there has been a resurgence of collecting, especially with memorabilia in the last, I would say, 50, maybe even 100 years, in terms of where people like to collect and communities that like to come together. One of the three most popular collections today and in the last couple of years has been buttons, coins, stamps, baseball cards are way up there as well. And these are just some of the things, and some people are nodding in the audience because we've probably heard of that. Some of that has been generated not just by the interest of pop culture and people that can communicate more quickly, especially the internet has really changed and sort of accelerated collecting in new ways, but also the advertising agency. Can anybody remember back in the 60s and 70s, cereal boxes or restaurants that collect these things and, have all five? So here's an example of Kellogg's cereal advertising Star Trek badges and collect all five, that whole thing. And McDonald's does that, everybody does that. It's a great market. It's millions and millions of dollars in marketing that they put into because people want these things. That's really interesting. But yes, and also on television, you might have heard of the Antique Roadshow or Pawn Stars. These gentlemen here, the American Pickers, they're from Iowa. So the American Pickers, it's a show about collecting. So they're Iowan, which is really, really awesome. And they're pretty popular. So I want to mention a couple of really record-breaking, these are people that really want, not just for the hunt, but really have acquired some amazing collections over time. Antonia Kasakova collects napkins. She has over 62,500 napkins, thousands of dollars worth. Proudly showing those. I love this one. We have this woman from England who has collected over 2,000 gnomes. Can you imagine what it's like to get to her front door? I have no idea. This woman, Barbara Hartsfield, is from Georgia, and she collects miniature chairs. And what I like about her is there's a miniature chair in a bottle, even though it's a pretty big chair, but they're all miniature. And she has even opened up her own museum, which is really, really cool, of her own collection. And collecting is for all ages, of course. This young man has collected over 19,824 pencils, one of them, which I believe is chrome gold, and continues to collect them. I can't imagine where he puts all of these. What about the University of Iowa? We're going to share a little bit about what you can explore on campus. So if you are able and interested, both the Pentecost Museums and the university libraries have great collections that you can explore. So we're going to explore some of that. There's an area, my great friend Elizabeth Reardon is at the libraries, and she has tons and tons of different kinds of collections, from cookbooks to Bibles to all kinds of different collections that you can find right in the library. She even has, I believe, a page out of the Gutenberg book. And so there's some really interesting collections that have come to the libraries, and they're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can visit the special collections. And there might be even the ability to get a tour, which is what I find. Science fiction novels. I saw rows and rows of science fiction novels. It was really interesting. If you're a movie fan, movie posters, you name it. One of the most special collections that they have is Charlotte Smith's miniature book collection. Now, what is a miniature book? So, Charlotte Smith, according to Elizabeth Reardon, her husband and her were collectors of books. But they collected so many books that they ran out of room in their house. So Charlotte got the idea, well, what about miniature books? So she found out there are miniature books up there. A miniature book has a special requirement. Miniature books need to be at least 3, at the most 3 inches or smaller. And if you look very carefully, and you can see even some of them have their own cabinets. So here's the size of the penny. Here's and they're fully published. You can read these. But look at, see those little dots? Those are fully published. They're about a millimeter and a half. And those are books. I absolutely love it. Delighted by the fact that they have these. Currently, the museum, the libraries have over 5,000, I think 4,000 to 5,000 miniature books in the collection. That's a lot. But a small space is really required to put them home. Ruth Marvin's Sacred Collection. Now, this collection is very interesting. Although they are not here with us any longer, they have left a legacy at the University of Iowa and have collected works of art that relate to words, anything with words on them, and I think that's really interesting. I'll play just a little bit just to get an idea, hopefully people can hear it, just to get an idea of their collection. Hopefully, oh, why did it do that? It's supposed to go. Words.
There are collectors and collectors, and Marvin was a different league of collector to the normal possessor of fine art objects that they can boast about. They're archive collectors, which is almost the rarest kind of collector, a kind of collector that the artist wants to collect.
I have about 25 patents I've kept on inventing for my art habit.
We classify all our works of art in this collection as we enter it into our database. Artist envelope,
Abstract expressionism,
audio cassette periodical,
acrostic,
book of art,
alphabetical text.
and this is our art bathroom.
The collection at the moment comprises about 65,000 items.
L'homme, the man, la femme, the woman. I love living in a museum. In fact, when we drive up in our driveway, we always say, home sweet museum.
So that's just a really great story about those two collectors, and they donated their entire collection to the libraries, which you can see. Here's an example of a detail of those words that I told you about within this work of art, and a few other examples. So please visit the libraries, and my good friend Elizabeth Reardon will be more than welcome to host you, or invite her here, and she can share more of what she does at the libraries. I highly recommend it. At the Pentecrest Museums, we're open and forgive me, we're open, this has changed since this particular slide. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we're always free. I mentioned earlier that we do have both a cabinet of curiosity. Here's the example. I think the abominable snowman footprint jar is just beyond the reach of this, but you can see this was sort of the way random objects put together. And then collecting has also changed. These are our two lions that were collected back in the early century. And we have a female and a male, they were siblings. So one of the things that our museums is very interesting when you go to them is you see sort of the view of how people collect and understood. You mentioned how people understand the world. So 100 years ago, people understood the world by categorizing, by understanding, right, and really organizing family and all the different sort of criteria for scientific, for the animal kingdom. But that has changed. The ethics have changed. We don't collect. We don't go up to hunt lions and bring them back and show them to the world. But at that time, they wanted to bring this back because people in Iowa had never seen a lion before.
Right.
And that's changed. So they're here, and you can read their story when you come to the museums. And the way that objects are also displayed in terms of the collection, you will see kind of a timeline within the Museum of Natural History, which is really worth seeing.
In Iowa City? Is that
Yes.
online? Later, I'll tell you a story
Yes.
about it.
The lions were here in Iowa City.
Right.
They were alive, brother and sister.
Right.
Now, fast forward to just a few years ago. Remember my story about my daughter's button collection and what I was so inspired by the Field Museum? I wanted to bring that idea here, and I did. So every semester we invite 2 collectors from the community, anybody, to showcase and exhibit their collections. And we've had over 16 collectors since, which has been great. So I'm going to showcase a few of those. And I brought some of their collections here, a few of them. Kyle Agnew is an MFA artist here at the University of Iowa, and he collects salt and pepper shakers. He has taken his, he has honored and celebrated his great-grandmother's collection of salt and pepper shakers, and done it in a way that, this is him, he's very proud of his collection and his relationship with his grandmother. And what's really great is that they are an artist, so they display the work of art as it relates to his, not just his love for collecting in these objects, but the representation that he has taken it in terms of LGBTQ love. And I find that very, yes, in terms of,
I'm sorry, did he make these?
he did not make, these were collected from the 50s.
Okay.
So from the 50s, and he's kind of taken the idea of these beautiful sort of ephemera and recurated it in a way that represents a little bit more about his relationship, not just with his grandmother, but his feelings about love in the LGBT community, which I think is very beautiful. And there's a wonderful interview of him of why he does this. But you can see it's framed by his artwork. He actually does photography, and he uses these collections because they're very effeminate in a way. So it's very interesting, you know, thinking about these objects being reinterpreted in an artistic way, and that was Kyle's interpretation. So, and that's the idea, is that we want people to express themselves and voice what they think, what their stories are about collecting. We don't want to limit that, so we are very proud to have shown Kyle's work. And you can see, like, for example, he curated putting two cowboys together rather than a typical, right, a typical hetero view of salt and pepper shakers that usually have a boy and a girl. Here he's putting some of them in same sex, some of them again in positions of, you know, love and affection. And again, that's how he has interpreted, which I think is very beautiful. Elizabeth Reardon, my good friend from the libraries, has her own collection of butter packed dishes. This is her, and this was her grandfather had made this cabinet for her, and she started collecting them when she was about 11. And this was her collection that she showcased at our museums. And just beautiful. They weren't very, I think one of the reasons she said she collects is because they weren't very expensive, easy to acquire, and they fit 1 pound of butter.
Wow.
On the plate. They're very tiny.
Sure.
They're very tiny. So here she is, when she was 11, she was featured in the newspaper, and an example of a detail of her butter packed dishes. All very different. Just very pretty. This is a sample showing the artist is showing the different gradations for painting. So this is more of like a reproduction for manufacturing. This couple has a lovely story. They've been collecting Lego minifigures together as a married couple, and they just have this passion together. These are just some small areas. Oh, we know Bob.
Lego.
Yeah, Legos. Yes. So, but they're minifigure Legos, and I think everybody recognizes this Bob Ross. This collector, this was a former Hawkeye. She, single mom, during the pandemic, they didn't have a lot to do. They were stuck at home, and they decided to start collecting geodes. It became kind of a family thing to do together. So I'm going to pass these around. These are their collections. They gave us some. And together they did it as, yeah, they're beautiful. Look at the crystals inside. So they actually gave me those, and found that they started acquiring so many. You can kind of see in the corner back here that they're putting them on display in their porch, just on the corner. They started acquiring so many, that they started giving them away. But it was something that they found to do together and enjoy each other's company during the pandemic. And here are the boys searching for them, and look, you know, here you see they're standing on a pile of geodes. So we were excited to showcase their collection. This gentleman comes out of the Harvard College of Medicine here in Iowa, and he collects Mr. Potato Heads. What I think is really great about his story is that he uses the potato heads in his practice in family medicine talk to them, to lighten sort of
Who
the
is
conversation.
again?
This collection?
Oh, yeah, who's the name?
Yes, this is Jeff Petit, and he is a professor at the Harvard College of Medicine.
Okay.
Harvard College of Medicine, and he has decided to keep them in the box, but some of them actually make sound and jiggle. I think he's got an Elvis. They have fun names like what is it? Darth Tater, Optimash Prime, all these sort of kind of funny. And he, in his collection, if you go on our website, you can see the collection online. And he has a timeline of when Mr. Potato Head started. Because if anybody remembers, Mr. Potato Head used to be,
like 8 or something?
yeah, they've been around. They've been around. And then later on became the family. And he's found it interesting that the Potato Head collection has changed based on society's changes of what family means. So now there's a family, and there's different, obviously, they're honoring other aspects of popular culture in America throughout time, and so he keeps collecting these. I think he has about 125.
Wow.
This gentleman is an archaeologist, and what I love about sorry, I'm just going to remember this. He was our first collector, Brian Kendall, that's right. Brian Kendall and his wife started collecting, and they have over 800 Pez dispensers. And this is his wall of Pez. Pez. And as an archaeologist, and thinking about how these help represent American society and pop culture over time and what people have been interested in is interesting. So he imagines 10,000 years from now, if somebody finds his collection, what would they say about our society? I think that's very interesting. They even had a Pez, Mr. and Mrs. Pez on their wedding cake, which I think is great. And he has the entire collection of all the presidents up to Barack Obama. There was a time that they had all the presidents Pez worn. There's just so many. So now I'm going to turn the lights on. I've shared some collections. We can come up, and I also want to hear stories from everybody. We have some people in the room that have also shared their personal collections. So let's turn off the lights. I'll just share. Come on up. I'll just share. We have one of my daughter's great-grandmother also collected postcards. So I have a few of her postcards, including this one of the 1936 exposition. This is a fun one, right? Ooh, recognize that? Jumbo postcard. And then we have, I'll share this one and bring it over a little bit. This is a collection that came rather odd. It was sort of mailed to us. We didn't know, but in the back it says, collected by E.C. Higgins, born in 1918, near Pella, Iowa, late 1920s, early 1930s. And it's their collection of butterflies, but I'm going to point out that the butterfly wings are real, but the bodies are printed and put on, pasted on. So they're not all real. That makes it equally interesting, I think. So you can come up and see.
I'm going to go get something. I have something from...
You're going to share some more?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll bring it up. It's kind of
Please
heavy.
come
I'll
up.
bring it on.
Well, remind me of your name.
Kay.
Okay, and you did these, right?
I did these, and I have
This
some
is
other things
Kay's.
from my husband.
Needlepoint.
Yeah.
We have a gentleman, this is cool. We have a gentleman who was the former Johnson County attorney here in Iowa, J. Patrick White, and he collects American political buttons. It's another program that I do. If you want to come back, I can bring back that collection and talk about American. He gave me this as a present because I helped curate his show. And this is an original I Like Ike campaign button. I think it's fun. It's a big one. Yeah, and it's kind of fun to see the backs of them sometimes. You are welcome to pick these up, but we just can't touch the board. And you are welcome to look at the postcards. And it's just a small sample. I think Aria's great-grandmother has about, maybe about 1,000.
Yeah, we can have these.
Yes, please, please have some of those. Yes, that's, I forgot to say, for those that want to, or keep some of these and share them out to your community, and it'll allow, just to know where we But yeah, those are the butterflies. And you can see, right, that's printed, but those are real. So they somehow curated it, and the way they displayed it is also kind of interesting. Yeah, yeah. Yes, we do accept donations. It's very kind of you to ask that. We do accept donations. Just come to the museums, or you can, there is a way I can get your name and I can put you in touch with how that works. That's very kind, because we are free. That's very kind. We're actually trying to, one of our favorite exhibits is called the Laysan Island, which is a cyclorama. It's from 1914. You remember? It's a 360-degree view of this island that was brought, part of the island was brought over and painted, and with the birds collected to showcase in Iowa what these islands in remote, off of the coast of Hawaii, way, way remote. And it's starting to disintegrate because birds have oil. That's why they are waterproof. Their wings are waterproof. And so the birds are destroying themselves. So we're on a campaign right now to restore them. Because it is an old exhibit, over 100 years now already. So yeah. And then here's again, if you want to see more closely, our bowerbird. If I could get it in the right light, there's a really nice iridescence. But again, of course, it's over 100 years old now. Oh, so this was collected in 1890, and I want to see. Who collected it? Said Bowerbird. It's got the scientific name on there. C.M. Jones. Hall. I don't know if that's college. Australia. They put a question mark on it. That's funny. It's just one of our very old bird specimens, but yeah, it's really interesting.
Where did you get it?
That's a good question. I should find out. I am not sure where we got these, but this is one of the old, we don't have a female. I wish we did. Tell us about, this is an opportunity to just learn. Tell us about your, these are your, what do they call pictures?
Yeah,
Not,
they're cream pictures.
oh, they're creamers. Do you have others like this?
Yeah, but this one, yeah, it has 18. Can you read it?
This is 1892.
1892. And what made, I want to, if I can, I will take some. You did. What made you interested in they call milk pictures?
Or creamer.
Creamer. What got you interested in that? Like what drew you to these little bags?
I don't know. They're small, and there's all the different, antiques, if you go into antique shops. They're small and collect.
So they're easy to kind of, how many do you have, if I may ask? Or did you have?
I don't know anymore, but I only have just a few.
You have a few of the ones that you, okay. And that's okay, these things change, and it's all good, but it's a good memory. Yeah. I think we're waiting on the needle. I want to hear about the story of the needle plant. I think, is it Kate? She'll come back and share more. Any other stories of collecting from the street? Oh, really? Oh, that's hilarious.
When we were in 5th grade, our principal actually encouraged us, and some of us, I think, were kind of interested in, we would go on field trips to a beer can collecting store in
tied to these little tassels so we had some left over if they fell off. Yeah.
That's
She
incredible.
was such a neat lady.
Look at the little, these little.
My husband's grandmother.
There's something
Bernie.
inside them. There's something inside
I
them.
don't know what that is.
I think it's just like to keep the shape.
Shape maybe, or
Uh-huh.
shell, or maybe she just crocheted them big enough.
This is gorgeous.
Oh, it is. And
Wow.
we'll send this back to the Montgomery County
Yeah.
Museum when we're finished. But these stayed in, you know,
Beautiful.
in a cedar chest when we were on Brown Street. And I thought when we came here, I would do everything I could to honor her.
Yeah.
And she raised my husband, and he's a delight.
That's nice.
He is really a delight.
So
We
what's,
don't talk about his wife very much.
well, does he remember what he was making?
Oh, yeah. And the thing that was so cute, they would go shopping, the rest of them, and she would go to the shoe store, shoe department, and sit there and do her work. I'm sure she didn't take this because it was so heavy.
It's just.
Yeah, that's right. Then you're right. And then put together, right, you're right.
That looks so hard to do. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
No.
Not even for these little.
And the other thing is, she was the nicest person you could ever imagine. And when I met my husband, my mother-in-law, I don't mean to be nasty, but he was an only child. And my mother-in-law wasn't real thrilled with him, you know, getting married and just like this.
You just tell me, yeah, and we'll help.
And Marty, the grandmother, was thrilled. She said, well, he needs a life of his own, and,
Oh, thank you. Can you tell me how this would be used, Mama?
oh my God, it was a bedspread.
Oh, is it bedspread?
Bedspread.
Is it like it looks good on the piano?
We try to use it as a bedspread. It's very heavy, and it's not warm.
It's not warm.
No.
It's more
It's an
decorative.
ornament. It's a ornament.
Well, that's very special. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're
bringing
welcome.
that.
And then I have a tablecloth. I have two of these.
Yes, I want to see more.
Okay, and I have, oh my God, I have doilies and, you know,
Okay.
lace. You couldn't
You
believe.
know how to make, like you made it, or somebody?
No, she
made it. What was her name, if I may ask?
Murray Cedarquist. I'm trying to think. Murray Cedarquist.
Okay. Well, I appreciate knowing. It's just nice to know. The name.
Thank you, love. Yeah, this is good. That's good.
Oh, wow, that was cool. I've never seen that before.
No, it's just such a museum piece, I think.
Yes, it
And then
is.
this
There are museums that collect and
Right.
display, like quilting museums, and
And when I wanted
they
to
have so
wash
many
it,
stories. Do you know about it just reminds me, do you know about the Herbert Hoover Museum, and they have a collection of
what, the pillow.
the pillows?
Right, I mean, they're speed sacks.
They're feed sacks, but they
Right.
wove them
Right.
in very intricate ways like that, so you can't help but.
What was the
If
thinking?
anybody gets a chance to go, if you haven't been to the
Yeah,
Herbert,
it's a
go
free,
see
it's
it.
yeah, this is, these are two, and there's a lot
Lovely.
of these left
I'm
over.
gonna take a picture of that too.
There are a whole lot of these little emblems or things left over.
Wow.
And she has rows and rows and rows of lace, and there must be like 6 or 8 pairs of pillowcases, and the lace is like that wide. I mean, just beautiful work she did. I mean,
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you ever, if I may ask, did you ever teach anybody how to do this? Or was
no,
that
I
kind of
don't
thing?
know. No, I think in those days, I mean, she was probably the best at it in their town, but, you know, she was a real quiet person.
What were you gonna say?
No, just that generation, they all did that.
Right. I think she was just a lot better than most of them. Right. Well, that's how, right. You know, the other thing, exactly, and the other
Yeah, I can see
thing,
that.
she had like
I just know that.
8 or 9 or 10 left sets of bone china.
Oh.
And when you were a farmer's wife, that's what you had, her husband was successful, all these dishes. And she had $200,000 worth of sterling.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, a lot. But anyway, they didn't even know what it was worth.
No,
You know, they
no,
just
no.
collected it, and the granny was like that too, and very non-pretentious.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, right.
And when I got it,
Thank you.
you know, and it wasn't insured or anything. Yeah, thank you. And when she passed away and we took it back here, and we put it in our house, it was just like a burden. I mean, I was so afraid somebody would break in, and he said, forget it. You know, we didn't know it was there before, we don't. So anyway, he said, and he's kind of particular about it, but my mother's attitude was enjoy it,
Yeah.
you know, and if it breaks, get another one.
Well, those are one of a kind.
A wonderful time, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and we're gonna hang it on the wall when, yeah, Jake,
Oh, that'll be
Jake is
beautiful.
gonna come and do that.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this time.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm happy to come back, but like, if you have ideas or feedback, we'd love that. We'd love that.
One thing you could talk about a bit, just because I'm I'm an artist, but I'm involved in a lot of collage, so I like to find
Yeah.
people.
Or questions, sorry, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But just talking about, I think, the way that the internet has changed. You
Yes.
mentioned that just, I think, the way that people can find other people.
Right.
Yes. There are huge communities out there. Yes.
Well, and you can find any replacement piece you want.
Right.
I mean, if you break up these,
Yeah, that reminds me, yes, keep going. Sorry, Kate.
when you have time, I'll tell you about my family.
Oh, well, give me this one,
No, I have a lot more.
because this is beautiful too.
Yeah, thank you.
Feel free to share your story on this.
The story on that is just equally gorgeous. My husband was in space physics, and there was a woman that was on the, his husband was on the teams, and she fell on a bicycle, you know, when you bike, we bike a lot.
Yeah.
And when the moss is on the ground, when you're in the water, she went around the corner and slipped. And so my husband, see, I don't even remember how the story went, but anyway, well, there was one of the men that was in that team, and his wife was left behind, and she showed me, our son was only about 9 months old, 10 months old, and she showed me how to needlepoint. And she was one of these quiet people, and she just helped me design my own things, which I never ever thought I could do. Like you with your, you know, your, yeah.
Quilting and stuff
Right,
like that.
and she had the oddest personality, and I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean, she said this too about herself. But my husband said she was behind the camera for taking pictures. And she had, you know, a master. She was very, very successful at it. But her personality was odd. And she taught me introduced to this. And we also did a lot of biking. And my son was 10 months old, and then we went on, I took him on rag ride the first day. I took him to the, Ken said, well, he has to go to the pediatrician to see if he can do this. And the pediatrician said, how many miles has he gone? And I said 40, and we just did the first day down to Muscatine, and I said, it's 40, and he said, just take him. So we took him. I took him. I mean, well, Ken came along, but.
I want to show you one collection that is actually an exhibit of ours.
What's that?
It's the American political buttons.
Here?
At the museums, we have because it was during the pandemic, we couldn't have this exhibit in person, but we created an online exhibit, and it's called Design to Win. And that's another presentation that I do, which I can come and do more specifically. But it's J. Patrick White's, that gentleman that I told you about,
Right.
who's the former Johnson County attorney. He collects American political buttons.
Wow.
And these are some of his cases date back a while, but I'm looking to add a few more in the future because he's starting to do other presidents, but these feature 10 presidents that won their campaign, correct? Yeah, like here's William Howard Taft. And you can click on these buttons and find out more about the particular, and you can zoom in a
What
little
do you
bit.
look under online?
What's that?
Do you look under West Branch or what? West Branch Museum?
Oh, this is our exhibit. So if you want to invite me back, I can do this presentation, and we also have, and then you can explore this site a little bit more easier. But yeah, that's our collection. And then to your point about collecting, it was J. Patrick White who used eBay, places like eBay, and other like American Association of Button Collectors, where he found a lot of his political buttons that he's acquired over time. And he has a very interesting story. His parents used to represent the Iowa delegate, go to the conventions and bring back, I think his earliest set of buttons and memorabilia or campaign memorabilia was from the Truman campaign way back. Yeah, so yes, there's a huge, I mean, if you want to share more about what you've noticed about the internet, but yeah, I mean, people go to conventions. There's a PEDS convention every year.
What?
There's Facebook groups that have thousands of people that, for their specific collecting.
Right.
And actually, that's how I advertised my program, was to some of those societies, and then people would attend. Which is kind of funny.
When you're finished, I can tell you another story.
Yes, I am finished, and in fact, I'm going to share some stickers. These are laptop stickers that you can put or give to your grandchildren if you have grandchildren or family, with our Old Capitol and Rusty the Sloth. I have one for you too.
Oh, thank you.
They're really nice. They have our sloth. Yeah. Hey, what do you want to share?
I had a maiden aunt, but she was really, she wasn't a maiden in the traditional sense. She took me, she introduced me to sewing, and my dad was in medicine in the United States Air Force, and she came over for 6 weeks.
Okay.
And we traveled all throughout Europe, collecting fabrics.
Oh, okay.
And we just
That's
sit in
nice.
the box.
Uh-huh.
And then my father passed away young, and then when I got back to the States, I lived in Dubuque, and she was in Chicago, and so I would go and visit her, and about once every 6 weeks, she would buy me, in the 70s, she would buy me like $300 or $350 worth of fabric.
Oh,
The
good.
only trick, I had to finish the projects before I come back and get
Yeah.
And I had more, Pendletons and linens.
Oh, goodness.
Everything you could imagine.
I love that.
Oh, it was just
It reminds me, my mother used to collect dolls when we traveled, and
She
still,
did?
She still does, like dolls from different
Yeah,
places.
sure.
You were gonna say something, yes?
Well, no, I was just thinking, I have little dabs of this, that, and the other.
Yes.
When we went
Please
to
share.
Europe, we decided not to bring home a lot of stuff.
Glass.
Just didn't bring anything back.
You
We
did?
decided we didn't need more stuff.
Oh, sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have different.
We should have gone along with those miniature books.
What my husband has right now.
Yes.
He got from his grandfather.
Oh, please share.
Got the things in southwest Wisconsin.
Okay.
He has a whole collection of arrowheads and that kind of.
Oh, collection of arrowheads from your husband. Oh, very
He
interesting.
really doesn't know what to do with them.
Oh,
So, I think he'd like to.
I can help you with that.
To the right.
We just got a collection of arrowheads.
To the kids, and it's.
I would recommend that maybe you get in touch with the Office of the State Archaeologist. And if you have a little time, I can give you some information on getting in touch with them, because they are the representatives of the archaeology of Iowa, and they work with our native peoples in Iowa, like the Meskwaki people in Tama, who are on they have the Indian Council. so they consult them. They work together with the Meskwaki people and other indigenous tribal nations that I think may, not just identify them, but maybe put them in a place where they belong. That they can that people can access and next generations can access. Oh yeah, no, yeah, for sure. They're valuable. They would be very valuable. Very. I'm so glad you brought that
Especially for
up.
learning technique, learning for people.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, for sure.
Archaeologist.
The Office of the State Archaeologist, which is here in Iowa City.
Oh, downtown?
At the University of Iowa.
Oh, it is at the university?
Yeah, at the university, the Office of State, and I work very closely with them. So,
We'll contact them.
yeah, Office of State Archaeologist. I just want to point out, again, if you have a collection like Kay, you could display some of your collections at our museums, and we just, we put up a page of you, of course, at the collection. But I just want to show you real quickly, these are some other collections we've had in the past. British Royal Memorabilia, which was fun. This gentleman who works, I can't remember where he works, fascinated by Queen Elizabeth, and we took down the collection the day she passed away without realizing she had passed away yet. It was very ironic. I had Fox News, I had the Gazette, I had everybody calling me, where's this guy's collection? I'm like, we took it down. So I may do a program about his collection when the coronation happens. So,
That'd be great.
yeah, so I'll try to do that. Huh?
Would you come here or at the main campus?
You can request it. See, yeah, talk to him. I'm sure, what I'd like to do is, if you're interested in having me come back to bring some of these collectors back with me and have you meet them. This gentleman is in the film department and English department, and he collects stereo viewers. And they're a lot of fun. And he's got a lot of them, including some of these things. Viewmaster, thank you. Well, what were these cards? Because this is from the 90s. That's right. These are over 100 years old. So those are his, and then let me show you some more fun ones. Ceramic vintage chicken. She's at the libraries as well, and she called it a collection of vintage chicken from her grandmother's collection, and I have a video of her talking about that. So what I'll do is I'll follow up with Dave, I think it was, and share the videos that you can watch with the interviews of these collectors.
Right.
So I did do this presentation on video and recorded, but the video includes interviews, which I couldn't bring here. But in the future, I can bring future collectors. Currently, we have Funko Pops, which is like a newer version of what looks like bobbleheads of pop culture characters and things, like the Target dog and the Morton Salt character. So this is a couple from Iowa State and the University of Iowa that have collected these. And piggy banks, which are interesting. There's just a lot. So I hope to collect, this one's a good one, Ragtime Vanity. This young man has over 10,000 musical sheets. And
Scrolls, like a
scrolls.
player piano scrolls?
Yes, and this was him playing that, one of his pieces. So I think I can play this for fun.
Is it a player piano or just a music sheet?
It was, they're the ones that went into the self-playing pianos.
Okay.
But I wonder what's going on, why it's not moving. Come on, work for me. Because it's really, then you see him playing it. I would like to see it work. Oh, I don't know if it's gonna, view this post on Instagram. I don't know if I'll be able to look at it, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's the internet connection or if it's the link itself.
It could be the internet.
Yeah, but he was very interested in ragtime music. So he was playing the famous one, what's it called?
Maple Leaf Rag.
Maple Leaf Rag.
I
You'll
would like to
recognize
use
it if you
guitar.
heard it. You'd recognize it. Oh, finally. Okay, let's see if it plays. Oh. He's only 22 years old. And he collects these. Oh, there it is, that's it.
Is that a player piano?
No, that's him playing the
Okay,
piece.
that's what I thought.
But that's how much he loves the music, that he knows how to play some of this.
And you have that at university?
We have it online now.
Okay.
He was on View, he was one of our first collectors on View.
Okay.
So yeah, so even though some of the collectors, because it's only one semester, half a year, and then we get one every 2 years. Two every 2 years, every 1 year. Oh my God, it's so mixed up. We get new collectors. So yeah, if you have a collection, I highly recommend you can just go here to, programs. And just a very quick mention of upcoming things at the museum. So here's my collections, and if you have a collection or know somebody that wants to showcase their collection, just go all the way down, and then, where was it? FAQs, where was it? You can submit your collection here, participant FAQ, right here. Sorry about that. And then you just submit your collection, and we will look through it, and a committee helps vote on it. A couple things that are coming up in the spring, so you're all aware. For anybody that loves to write or draw, I have what's called Art and Write Night, which is free to the public from 6 to 8 p.m. the first Friday of every month. And anybody can come to draw and express themselves in the museum. And then we also have a community gallery that we showcase people's artwork from the community. And they get inspired by our collections of mammals and birds and other areas of the museum. Last month we opened up Old Capitol for people to capture the architecture in different spaces. So that's a free program, once a month. Please come to that if you love to draw or if you like to write. And it's open-ended. Just drop in. You don't need to have any skills. We have materials available for people to use. And that's a great program. The second program I want to share with you that you are welcome to come, and I think would greatly enjoy, I have an outdoor tree tour.
What?
A tree tour. Trees? So ever since, once the pandemic hit, for two reasons I do tree tours. One, because we are an official arboretum at the University of Iowa. We have over 8,000 trees with over 330 species, which just basically means we have a tree museum on campus. So I show the variety and diversity. Sometimes I have our university arborists with us to share about the story, the lores, the health benefits of trees. We do some exercises. We get to know all different kinds of species. And now I'm doing them seasonally. So I'll have a winter tree tour, or I just had one. I'll have a spring tree tour coming up on Earth Day that you can come to. That's April 22nd. I'll have a summer tree tour, and I'll have a fall tree tour, and then I'll do it seasonally, because it changes. So there's a lot to see and learn about our trees. And the second reason why I'm doing these tree tours is because last year we got a very special tree on campus. It is the Anne Frank sapling.
I saw that.
That was big news. So Anne Frank, who used to look out of her window when she was in hiding in the annex, would see this beautiful horse chestnut tree, and it was her only connection to nature. She would write about it. And her father didn't know about that connection with the tree until after she had died, and once he had read her diary. And it talks a lot about this idea of the longing for freedom, the connection to nature, that people are really good at heart. And that inspired me to do tree tours because we brought the tree, and also for people to reconnect with nature and think about mental health and think about resilience that we learn from trees. So if you want to come to that, April 22nd, please come to the tour. We would love to have you. I really enjoy it every time I do it. So those are my upcoming programs, and if you have any questions?
I would like a list of the things that you talk about. I mean, like this tour where
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll share with Dave links that you can just click on and learn about, if that's helpful. Do you have access?
That's great.
To a
Can you just
computer?
write it down for me?
I can write it down for you, sure. Absolutely. Let me get some